Welcome to the Project with Sam and Lewis, the podcast that looks at projects throughout pop culture and history. I'm Sam.
And I'm Lewis.
And on today's episode, we are talking about the 1996 documentary Project Grizzly.
We certainly are getting all involved in those grizzly bears.
We're getting grizzly today.
We're getting grizzly. Yeah.
It was an interesting watch, wasn't it? Very different to kind of the stuff we've been doing recently at the least.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't done something like this for a while, so I was quite looking forward. I feel like we've just been watching TV for like months.
We made a bit of a conscious decision to do something, either a film or documentary, I think was the idea, and we kind of settled on this.
Settled on Project Grizzly.
Yeah, not something I'd ever... I think I might have vaguely heard about it. I've seen it referenced in things before. I don't know if you've got any notes on that.
No, I haven't, but there was a Simpsons reference.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. Yeah, we'll talk about that more as we get into it.
And it was on Amazon, which was handy.
Yeah, didn't have to go down to...
HBO Max.
Yeah, which is the name of the guy who sells VHSs down my road.
Oh, yes.
I think I called him Jim last time, but HBO Max is a better name for
him.
Yeah,
HBO Max.
Because he's called Max.
Yeah, you know.
He has... horrible BO.
Oh, poor Max.
I know. He tries his best, and he provides me with lots of free entertainment.
Oh, good old Max.
Before we get into any segments, if you want to skip ahead, we've got episode time codes in the episode description.
We do have episode time
specific
codes
for this episode. But before that, how are you today, Lewis?
Yeah, not bad. It's been like a ridiculously busy time at work recently, so it's just been like non-stop that. And today I had two meetings, one on one side of the city and one on the other side of the city. So wow. I walked for like 2 hours today in my like 8-hour shift. I spent a quarter of it walking.
Get your steps in though, and you get paid for it, I suppose. So
yeah, and it was
one way of looking at it.
And whilst I was walking, it was fairly sunny, so it wasn't too bad. There was a thunderstorm that started just as I got to one meeting.
I think someone said there was hailstones at one point, so really? I didn't think we got that right here, but maybe somewhere in the area. Yeah.
How are you today?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, being a bit ill, but on the mend, so not too bad. Yeah, had a fairly busy weekend. It seems to be the way of things. And
I did nothing this weekend.
Yeah, that's quite nice.
I didn't drink any alcohol all weekend.
I was planning on doing it because I felt a bit rough on the Friday, so I was like, oh, I'm not going to do anything. I had quite a chill Friday, and then Saturday was just like jam-packed. So
it is the week of payday, so that was a factor.
Yeah,
but it was nice just not doing anything.
The week before, yeah. Oh, you get paid this week, do you?
Yeah, this Friday. I mean, by the time this episode comes out, it would have been a few days ago. If you need to know when I get paid,
I get paid a couple of days after this episode comes out. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got a fun thing I'm going to on Friday. Fortunately, I get paid that day, so I can afford to do it.
Oh yes, I do. I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
Cool. But before we talk about the topic of today's episode, we have a little segment, don't we?
We certainly do. Project News.
Do you know how short they're going to be before you play them?
There's a list of 6 different short ones, stingers, all made by Steve Oxon, as I mentioned before.
You have,
and I just pick one at random. There might be one that I've never used. There might be one that I've used like 10 times.
You have to collate them.
But yes, as always, I've Googled the word project, picked up a bit of news. There was firstly a bit of news that you sent me earlier this week.
Did, yeah, and we'd forgotten what that was prior to recording, haven't we?
Yeah.
And I didn't read the article as always, I just send the
so it's across. Disney Plus developing new Daredevil project, writers announced.
Yeah.
A new Daredevil series in the works at Disney Plus. Matt Corman and Chris Ord are writing the project and will executive produce. No word yet on whether or not Charlie Cox will return.
They say that, but I mean...
He's in Spider-Man.
Yeah, spoilers for Spider-Man, but yeah.
I've seen talk about it's just going to be essentially a 4th season of Daredevil. Daredevil is now on Disney Plus.
It is, yeah. There was that short break and then they popped it back
So
on.
They could just make a season 4. They could also just kind of have a soft reboot.
I think they'll do a kind of combination where they won't necessarily recognize, they won't lead off of stuff.
No.
But, certain things like Bullseye kind of came to his fruition at the end of the third season, and it'd be a shame not to go back.
I think
to
it'll be a case of like Charlie Cox's Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk, who is also in the MCU
I think
now.
Foggy Nelson they'll probably get back, and probably Karen Page as well. But if they don't want to, they could just
I think it'll be a continuation without ever mentioning like the first 3 seasons, essentially.
Yeah,
so like they're not essential viewing.
I've seen Stephen. What's he called? Stephen S. DeKnight, I think it's called Stephen DeKnight, who was the showrunner for the first 3.
Yeah.
He's been very kind of complimentary and saying, you know, I hope it's even better than what we did. He's a fan of the character and stuff. So it doesn't seem, at least openly, that there's hard feelings there, which is good. And I think he might have moved on to films that we've talked about before. I don't know exactly what off the
Quite
top of my
possibly,
head.
But as we've spoken about before, I love Daredevil, the Netflix series. I think all 3 seasons are brilliant.
Yes, I'd agree. Yeah.
I think Iron Fist obviously wasn't particularly good. Luke Cage had its moments. Jessica Jones season 1 was good, but season 2 wasn't particularly good. Whereas Daredevil has 3 really good seasons.
Yeah,
and like it brings in like Punisher, Bullseye, as you said. Yeah. Wilson Fisk, Elektra,
very consistent throughout, isn't it?
Yeah,
compared to some of those other ones.
And I'm very, very glad that they're sticking with Charlie Cox. I mean, it says it's not confirmed, but the fact that we've seen him in the MCU, it would be weird for it not to be him.
Yeah.
Unless they do a weird multiverse thing where they get John Krasinski to play Daredevil.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting, but I don't want to see that, to be honest.
No, Charlie Cox was great cast. I remember seeing a thing that, because he was playing Daredevil for so long.
Yeah.
After that, he found it hard to get other roles because he was so used to acting blind.
Not looking people in the eyes.
And he'd be at auditions and they're like, what are you looking at, Charlie? Like, look this way. And it's like... Yeah, so I think Daredevil was the only thing I'd seen him in.
Yeah.
And then I remember watching Stardust.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of.
And it's like, oh, it's weird seeing him look at people.
Yeah. It's also funny because I think him, Andrew Garfield, and I think it's Robert Pattinson all used to live together when they were like wannabe actors in London. So it's Spider-Man, Daredevil, and Batman all used to live together. I
think it was Halloween last year. Charlie Cox
and it might be Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston,
well.
and Charlie Cox went out as Loki, and Tom Hiddleston out as Daredevil.
Which
very
is
good. Great.
Very good costumes, of course.
And like to be fair, his blind acting's really good.
Yes, it is like solid. Yeah,
like I'm sure there'll be people out there who say cast a blind man. I don't know many blind actors.
Also, for some of the action and stuff, you kind of need. Yeah, you know, it's one of the cases where he's also not really blind, is he?
Yeah, and we see one shot in the series of what he sees.
Yeah,
and it's like
the
almost
world
infrared.
On fire, they say, yeah. Whereas in the one from the early 2000s, it's more like shockwavy type things.
Yeah,
which kind of is more how it's often portrayed on comic panels. But I think they wanted to move away from that.
And comic panels is hard to translate into
so
film.
All these kind of shockwave sound like sonar stuff makes more sense on a stationary thing.
So the other bit of project news I've got is Moses Ingram says Obi-Wan Kenobi is the most diverse Star Wars project.
Oh nice. I actually saw this headline today I think.
It is on Enemy, so it doesn't surprise me.
That,
she says if you've got talking droids and aliens but no people of color, it doesn't make any sense. Because that is the whole thing of like in the original trilogy, Lando's the only black man in the universe.
Yeah. And then they have maybe a couple of black guys.
Mace Windu.
And the captain of the guard in Naboo.
Yeah.
And maybe some background. I mean, the recent ones have done better, but
yeah, I mean, Finn was a prominent character.
Even women played a very small role in the original trilogy.
Yeah, there's
Mon Mothma. What's she called?
Mon Mothma.
Mon Mothma, yeah, and Princess Leia is pretty much the only
Did I send you the video of all the lines
Baru.
spoken by women in the original trilogy except Leia?
Oh no, it's like 1 second.
It's literally, I think it's like 2 lines.
This is Aunt Beru.
Aunt Beru has got like 1 line, and then I think Mon Mothma's got like 1 line, and it's like cool. Mose Ingram, she's from the Queen's Gambit,
right? That's right. Yeah,
is playing an Inquisitor. I don't know how familiar you are with Inquisitors.
Yeah, fairly. I mean, I've seen people talking about required in inverted commas watching for Obi-Wan, and a lot of it is Clone Wars and Rebels, and I don't think I'm going to bother because it comes out in like a couple of days.
I
from
was
now.
planning on watching stuff. I might just watch Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, I might. I'll see how I get on, really. I'm going on holiday on Friday. I don't really have time to watch too much. And we've got to watch a certain Tom Cruise blockbuster before this episode's released, haven't we?
Yes.
Mission Impossible 10. We've skipped one.
I was going to make a joke, but we might watch the Mission Impossible films later on this year, so I was trying to think of another Tom Cruise film. Tropic Thunder.
Yes, that's right. I think 10 is this one, so I think I'm right.
Yeah, but it's like... I think it's like it's like
Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yeah, Part 1. I was going to say 10 and a half, but no, it's a 2-part because apparently all films have to have 2-parters this time. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Obi-Wan.
Yes, me too. I've been really good with trailers, and I have followed suit with you, and I haven't watched anything at all.
Yeah,
I've seen a couple of screenshots here and there, but
that's literally all I've seen, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to Hayden Christensen getting another shot.
Yeah, totally. He's been featured a lot in kind of. I know he's now a fan favorite, but he's had interviews and he's on covers and stuff. So I imagine they'll do a couple of helmetless shots and
or like flashbacks.
Probably at least one flashback, like a half episode flashback, which is very cool, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they'll probably try not to do too much because the CGI could look wonky if you spend too long doing it.
I feel like they'll hint at stuff and then maybe like the second last episode will be like half a flashback. So you know what I mean? Like
just redo one of the Clone Wars episodes but in live action.
I mean, Dave Filoni's involved, isn't he? So like
Ahsoka's in live action as well now.
Yeah.
Although a bit older than she is in the Clone Wars series.
Just get Rosario Dawson's daughter. Maybe she's around. I don't know. Maybe she's got a daughter.
But yeah, that is project news for the week. So we can get on to the very exciting project of Project Grizzly from 1996.
So immediately go into it. When did you think this was filmed? When you saw it? Because I thought it was way earlier than 1996.
I knew it was 1996 before, so
I didn't know. And
it's very grainy footage.
It's super grainy, and there's jokes in lots of things about how far Canada is back in like culture and technology and stuff. And lots of this, he's dressed like he's from the 70s. He's acting, he's filmed like he's in like the mid 80s, but I know some of it was recorded kind of late 80s, but. Yeah, it's what's the kind of Google description?
So it's a long one actually.
Right. Okay.
So put in your seatbelt.
Okay.
Directed by Peter Lynch, Project Grizzly follows the pursuits of a Canadian metal worker, Troy Hurtubise, as he attempts to construct a suit of armour capable of withstanding a grizzly bear attack. For Hurtubise, building the perfect suit has become an obsession. He is ever searching for stronger materials and better designs, and subjecting himself to brutal tests. Hurtubise is driven by a one-time encounter with a grizzly bear and seeks to recreate the experience close up and personal.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
I accidentally played something in the middle of that. I think that's pretty spot on though.
Yeah, it's quite in depth.
It is. I saw one. I was trying to find that. I think it's on IMDb, and it's written really weirdly. Let's see if I can find it while we're getting into this. But it says something like a Canadian fellow tries to do some action or something. It's very strange.
See, as mentioned, it's directed by Peter Lynch, starring Troy Hurtubise.
It's not that interesting. It's just it says a Canadian fellow working on his dream. Blah blah blah. I just thought fellow is a bit of a funny one.
He works in like he's
scrap
like a steel
yard,
worker. Working scrap.
So he must have a lot of access to metals and material and stuff like that.
But he's also just like an inventor who likes to build. I think his dad's built a lot of stuff, as we see.
Yeah, we see some more kind of construction-y stuff that he built.
Yeah.
And he's had this encounter early on, which he talks about, I think, almost immediately in this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of shaped his life, and it's given him a bit of direction and meaning. and he's very kind of eccentric and kind of fixated on
and the whole thing is centered around him and his like friends who are kind of working on this project with him.
And it's probably set over a couple of weeks, like the actual filming, but it goes back in kind of they did some old archival footage and, and little interviews and stuff like that.
It's produced by the National Film Board of Canada. So they were like, Canadian hero, let's do it. Box office was actually pretty good.
Really?
So like,
it had a cultural impact, as we mentioned.
For a mid-90s documentary, it had 30 million box office.
Right. I don't imagine it was that expensive.
No, maybe $1 million.
Maybe that, because we find out how much he spent on his own work later on, and it's not that much even, but it's a lot for somebody on their own. But the person who filmed it would have had a small crew and a director and
a box like for a documentary really in the 90s. It's quite good. Do you know the IMDb score?
I have no idea. No, I didn't.
Do you have a guess?
I don't actually have it open. I was about to Google something else, but I'll stay away from my keyboard so that you don't suspect I'm cheating. I'm going to go for 8.2.
Oh, wow. Everything's between 6 and 7.
I know, but I feel like if it had a good kind of response, I mean, carry on.
Yeah, it's 6.4.
Fair enough.
You shouldn't have tried to double guess the old IMDb.
I did like a double agent thing there.
So, yeah, are you ready to...
I was trying to find the budget, but I imagine you probably looked for that already.
Yeah, I struggled for that.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready to get grizzly, as they say in the Canadian.
Can
North.
you bear an hour of talking about this documentary?
I mean, the film was only an hour and 10 minutes, so I feel like it probably won't have an hour's worth of content, but we'll see what we can do for you.
So listeners. It opens with like the landscape of like the Canadian forest.
Yeah, it's somewhere near. Is it near Ontario? Is it that he's from?
I don't know. He's just in the wilderness.
Yes, Northern Ontario is where he kind of.
And we get Troy. Yeah. He comes walking out the woods in like the snow.
Yeah, it's super snowy,
and he's saying how like, this brings back memories.
Yes.
This is close to where it happened with Old Man.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
It's all quite vague. And he starts going into this story, and he says like, it was watching me. And it's kind of deliberately vague. It's
deliberately
cut.
And we come back to this later. Yeah. This is from kind of near the end.
And he's like, I can see it. And there was a bear. It's just like, just chilling.
He said he was walking. So he's in this kind of modern day 1996 footage. He's wearing like a kind of tassely suede jacket, isn't he? And he's got like a red beret. Like he looks like a character from like a 70s, almost like an A-team or something like that. Very kind of, even when he's with his friends, he stands out, and it's very intentional. Yeah, he's got 2 knives, which he goes on about later. One's like in a holster
on his shoulder, and one's
like further down.
Yeah,
and he's got like a little bit of a kind of mustache thing going on, and he looks like he doesn't look like a super cool guy, but he's got like a look for sure.
Yeah, he's fairly like self-confident and comfortable in himself.
He's very charismatic in a lot of ways.
He is. I like Troy.
I liked him as well, and you can see why he kind of has, because all the friends that go along with it, I don't know if he's paying them anything for a lot of this.
No, I think
it's just like a boys' trip, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
And we go through this story, and he's saying he had like, I think he had a dinghy on his back, and he had like a gun, because at that point he was cool with guns. He had like an issue with it. And he had like a knife, and he was walking. Yeah, and he felt something was watching him for like 3 days, and then like you say, he looked up and he sees this bear looking at him, like grizzly bear off, and he said, I think he was leaning against a tree, the bear.
Yeah, just like a human. Yeah. But he says like, he doesn't go into details, but he's like, I don't know how it happened, but the bear didn't kill me. Yeah. And I've been on his trail ever since.
And he's like, I've been to psychologists, I've been to mystic men, and no one's ever been able to explain it. It's like, okay.
And then we cut to a shot of a helicopter carrying like a suit, like it's it looks like an astronaut.
It looks like a little bit like Pacific Rim, actually, now that I think about it, but like obviously much smaller.
So we will get, Sam, how would you describe this suit?
Like kind of like you say, like an astronaut suit, but between an astronaut suit and like an old-fashioned diving suit, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I thought
but the
same.
color painting does look a bit like a mecha kind of Pacific Rim.
It's like
thing.
white and red.
White with like red accents on it.
It's very like big,
and it's not very mobile, is it?
Yeah, and you can't really see out of it because it's full protection of a bear attack. It's like
almost
literally
like a circle
dots in front
of thing.
Yeah.
And I think even with the circle, because of how big it is, because he says at one point he's like 5'7" or 5'9", and he said
I think he says 5'8".
Okay, so like 5'7" or 5'9", and he says it takes him up to about 7 foot.
Yeah.
So he's really like in the middle of this suit, and you can't move the arms or legs, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we see this shot, like you say, over the kind of Canadian wilderness. There's a helicopter with it kind of hanging underneath. You don't know at that point. I wasn't sure if he was in the suit. I thought maybe they were going to like drop him in.
Same. I was like, is they going to lower him down and he walks from there? But
yeah, and he there's like kind of like vaguely kind of country guitar music playing.
They're very much like Canadian rednecks.
Yeah, exactly. But all very kind of harmless.
Yeah,
generally speaking,
but they love hunting and beer.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
One of them at some point starts playing some country music on a guitar in a diner. It's like,
and they're all, apart from him, as he kind of goes into why he doesn't really like guns later on. But the rest of his mates, they're rifled up to the teeth. Yeah. They've got some sort of bomb things that we see later on as well, don't we?
But we get the title Project Grizzly.
Yeah,
and we get shots of like men on horses riding through fields.
It's kind of that, like you say, kind of cowboy redneck kind of vibe, isn't it? Yeah. And then we get, I think, a radio interview, don't we?
Yeah, so a DJ's interviewing Troy. He's like, Troy Hurtubise has built a bear suit. And Troy starts talking about it. Says this version of the suit cost him $100,000.
Right.
So he's put a lot of money into this.
Yeah.
It's 7'2", weighs 147 pounds, which is a lot. It's a heavy old suit. And he's like, it looks silly and a struggle to walk in it, but like it does its job.
It does its job.
I think it's Mark 6 because we see some of the early ones
like that. Yeah. And that shot where we see through them reminds me of like an Iron Man or like a Hammer Tech kind
Mark,
of thing.
Mark 1 to 6.
It feels like some of those early videos feels like the Hammer Tech suits that go wrong and stuff like that.
Then we see like a trial of them testing it, and what they've got is Troy standing in the suit, and they've set up like a pulley system with a big log. Like it's
they
a good
say
like
how much it weighs. I can't remember how much it is, but it's a heavy log. It's like a log cabin sized log, like 2 meters long, like a couple of foot
thick and it's up on this pulley, so it's like basically going to swing down at like a 90-degree
angle. It's
like
the Ewok stuff, isn't it? When they do like the traps kind of thing.
And he's standing there and it swings down into like his chest and knocks him back.
I thought this bit reminded me so much of like a Jackass film. It's just like guys doing stupid stunts with their friends.
But he's fine, and it's like, this suit is pretty strong. And then there's one of many shots of like him and his friends. There's like 8 of them or something in like a diner, I want to say.
Yeah, it seems like some of them are drinking beers and stuff. I think it's kind of their equivalent of a bar, but it's just like it's like a diner. And they're is this the bit where they're talking, or is it later on? Doesn't really matter. Troy's like, I don't think we ever meet his wife in this, do we?
No, we don't.
No, which is quite funny. But he's like, she only lets me go out for a couple hours. I get here at like 11 and I have to leave at like 1. It's like, why the fuck are you getting to the diner at 11 p.m? Like, that's insane.
I think this bit's very much like getting to know him and his friends.
Yeah.
And one of them tells a story about how when in medieval times they do lancing, and it wouldn't be the hit that killed you, it'd be the
falling
fall
off the horse, because it's it's a couple of meters down,
and in like a medieval knight suit.
Yeah, you get twisted, all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and those
it's
suits,
gonna be heavy.
They're not really for the impact so much as like blades and stuff. Really,
yeah, exactly. So they're just kind of chilling, and then we get another shot of him getting hit by the log.
Yeah, it goes through. He gets hit a couple of times, and you can see first of all his mates are kind of quite attentive in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
they're kind of useless, but they're like, oh, we'll go see if he's okay.
Because this is basically one guy on a mission and he's doing it with his mates. Yeah. They're kind of good mates to have along with because they're fully invested in it. Yeah. And they do care about his safety before anything else.
That's it, yeah. And it is funny, it is comical because one of them goes, oh, check if he's okay. And they three kind of middle-aged guys kind of run up to him and try and get his suit off and stuff.
And he's got like a mouthpiece in his mouth.
Yeah, they say the second time he puts it's like a gum shield in, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that was better because he just teeth don't like chatter together so much, kind of thing.
Yeah, and he starts talking. He says he's talking to like researchers on bears about how powerful like a bear hit is. And like the log swing is like twice as more powerful. So if he can survive
that's like the most one bear could ever do in one hit. And he's like, the only thing is they could do multiple hits at once. Yeah.
But it seems like he's got quite far with it. It is Mark 6. Like his suit is in a good place that it can be like tested.
Yeah. And he goes on about so this is when we find out a little bit more about the bear that attacked him. And he said it was called Old Man because it had like a particularly grey beard.
Yeah, and from like its chin down was
quite rare for a bear.
And he was like, he said when he was kind of facing it, he was like, it's easier to kind of make sense of the situation if you name him and it's not just a faceless monster. So he names him Old Man, which it's not even a name.
Yeah, that's true.
But he does refer to him as Old Man.
Yeah, and we can see, as you said, that he is quite fixated. He is obsessed, really, but in a fairly kind of positive way,
harmless way,
harmless. I don't know how much of that's because of our perception of like jolly Canadians, but he is kind of that stereotype.
He is very Canadian. Like there was times like his accent is the stereotypical Canadian accent. Like he throws in the A's and all that, and it's like it's kind of that. It's almost sounds to like British ears, like American with like an Australian twang to it.
Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, I can get that.
But he is just like, if you want to hear the stereotypical Canadian accent, listen to Troy, and you're like, he's definitely Canadian.
In this bit, I kind of realised that he kind of reminded me a bit of Patrick Swayze. I don't know if you ever got that. Not like all the time, and not probably quite as kind of Hollywood handsome kind of thing. But there's a vibe of that with him, I think.
Oh, there was somebody he reminded me of. I can't remember who it is now.
And there's also the guy who is like his best mate. Looks exactly like him. Is it his brother? It's not, is it?
Don't know.
Do you know the guy I mean? He looks quite a lot like him.
Yeah, he's the younger guy.
Who's like his little protege guy.
I thought he Troy looked a bit like Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, no, I get that as well. Yeah, there was a couple of times where I had that. Or no, Ethan Hawke. Yeah, I always get Kevin Bacon and Ethan Hawke confused.
Ethan Hawke was in Moon Knight.
Yes.
But yeah, he's now telling the story about when he's attacked by the bear and named him.
Yeah, Old Man.
And then he goes to visit some bears in a zoo.
Yeah, and he talks about the name Grizzly Bear, the Ursus, whatever it is, means horrible bear. And he's like, oh, they're not horrible, kind of thing. And we kind of get in pieces through here that he is, as much as he says he's interested in researching them, a lot of it is focused on the suit itself, and he has got this obsession with kind of getting near to document them and stuff, but we don't really see a lot of that in this, and it's a lot of like, I'm interested in researching them, but it's so amateur, and I don't know if it's just the way the documentary focuses, but do you know what I mean? It almost feels like a cover story for his real
He
thing.
never really gets the chance to explain his research, so it comes across that the only reason he's looking at bears is to help to perfect his suit.
Yes, yeah.
Which is,
it's here or there, really. I mean, I know we get to it after, but I know he carried on making kind of gadgets and doing bear stuff afterwards. So
doing bear stuff, mate.
He did bear stuff, well, for a time, but yeah, he did some bear stuff. So yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's kind of unclear. It feels to me like he just wants to do this thing, and this is what he wants.
He wants to get attacked by a bear and survive.
Yeah, and he talks later about kind of having kind of PTSD and kind of weird I shouldn't say weird, but like they sound quite strange kind of episodes there.
Yeah.
Waking up in the night and stuff. So yeah.
This really changed his life, this bear attack.
It really did. And I think a lot of it is because he didn't really have much meaning in his life from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
And, not everyone has, lots of meaning. I mean, he does have a wife and a young son. So maybe take that as a meaning there.
I think it was one of those things where, like, he, after he kind of says that he doesn't know how he survived it. And that's kind of been playing on his mind for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, how on earth did I survive that?
Because we don't know when it was that it happened, do we?
No, I kind of, because he was with his dad.
Right.
Was
he with his dad or not actually? His dad wasn't actually there at the time.
No, but he was out in the woods with his dad.
Okay, yeah.
Which made me think maybe he was like a child. But then he mentions that he had like a knife and a gun. So maybe he was like late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, that's what I got. Because in this, he's probably in his 40s, maybe early 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
So then we get some more like testing the suit, and his friends have got like a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And it's like the idea is to simulate the claws of the bear.
And they have like a low caliber rifle as well, don't they?
Yeah.
They're shooting at it. And it does make holes in it, but they put a balloon inside to test it.
So with the shotgun and stuff, he's not in the suit.
Yes, yeah.
But
they have some kind of safety.
Yeah. I do think they are quite safety concerned
in a lot of ways, yeah. And then when they kind of get to it, they're like, oh, this is what they're quite overly kind of cautious about what they'll do, but it's also kind of reckless. I
think it's kind of like, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it properly.
Yeah, I think especially
because they've been doing it for so long as well, and spent so much money on this.
in this part as well, when they shoot it a couple of times, I think like part of it falls off because it's not connected, and he runs over and we see he's wearing one of those coats that I always think of like as a Van Helsing coat, like a long coat with like the flaps, different flaps here and there, and I think it's just like a coat from like, it's like a kind of hunting coat from like 200 years ago in like England, but like you see it in guys who like love
hunting
or like guys who, I don't know, it just reminds me of, I think Van Helsing probably wears a coat like that in one of the versions of him.
I did watch Van Helsing recently. Did I mention it on the pod?
I think you did, because it's pretty good. In like a bad
in like an early 2000s,
in like a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen way. Oh, that's what I was trying to find earlier to detour straight away. They're doing a new version of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I think we spoke about that last week.
Did we speak about that?
Yeah.
On the pods?
I think so.
I don't think we did.
I had that open. I'm pretty sure we spoke about that last week.
Well, I didn't. It's not written down as one of the newses that we did on the
What
notes.
was the news last week?
We talked about My Chemical Romance and the Lazarus Project.
Oh yeah, we
Unless
did.
you had 3 and I missed one of them when I was doing the edit, but
I might have had 3. We'll find out when we listen.
Anyway, but so they're doing that. And that's it's a TV show. No, it's a TV film version of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. If we didn't talk about it.
So we don't meet his wife, but he is now in a diner with his mum.
Yes.
I think it's his mum.
I think it's his. Maybe it's his wife, but I think they're talking about his dad.
She's like 30 years older than him.
Well. She's talking. They talk about his dad, so I assume it's his mum.
Yeah, and they talk about how like they.
Oh, it's definitely his mum. Yeah, because they talk about the volcano experiment he did as a kid,
and like shooting like Christmas decorations, like baubles and stuff.
And I think with the volcano thing, I kind of tuned out because it's a bit of a boring
They made a
story.
big fire.
He basically set fire to the house because he didn't do the normal like bicarbonate of soda one. He did one with like gas and like fire. So he was a fun kid, and then he talks about his dad quite a lot now, doesn't he?
We've got before that it's got the different suits.
Oh right, is that bit
so
now,
it goes so we see, I think we only see like Mark, like
we don't see the original one, do we?
Oh wait, no, we don't see them now, but he's talking about his suits with his mum. And how he's kind of changed them. But then we get to him talking about his dad more.
Yes.
And they're walking through this reconstruction of a Native American
and they call
village.
It the Indian village, they call it.
Yeah. I was thinking like they'd be Inuits though if they in Canada, maybe not.
Well, it's First Nations people is the kind of the
but yeah,
term,
it's called Scarnar Don't.
Right.
Or Don't.
Right. And it's like a proper kind of construction, isn't it?
His dad built it. It looks like the sort of like things you go see as a kid of like a reconstruction of a thing.
So it's lots of kind of spiked poles made into like fences, guard towers, like
we see like central buildings,
almost like I say almost, it's like something you see in like a Viking film or something like that, but obviously because it's the kind of equivalent.
It also kind of remind me that you see in like American TV show, particularly like camps, summer camps. Like,
it's like
I think Bart Simpson goes to a similar sort of camp at some point. Homer goes to rock camp.
He does.
with Mick Jagger.
I think there's a lot of people in that. That was.
I think it's Mick Jagger runs it though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of rock stars because that was right in the moment of everyone wants to be on The Simpsons. And it became oversaturated with guest stars.
But he's reminiscing about his dad and being like, his dad was always like quite proactive and wanted to do stuff and make stuff, and he kind of took that from his dad, which is probably part of the reason. I get the feeling that his dad's passed at this point.
He doesn't say why or how, but it was at some point during the making of the suits, because he said he was really excited to see where he was going with it. And I think a lot of this has spurred him on because he says like, oh, everyone wants to make their dad proud, but like I feel it especially, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And because he was partway through this project when his dad passed away, and he's like, oh, I knew he would have wanted me to see it through.
Yeah, and it's probably partly known his dad liked building stuff, and the fact that he experienced this bear attack when he was with his dad. His dad's very much interlinked with this project, so he's kind of determined to see it through to the end.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
But then we get they load up the suit onto like a truck.
Yeah.
And
is that when it's going along on the?
They're like driving along, and it's just like standing up on the back. And he said he went to college for 3 years.
Yeah. What did he study?
I don't think. It's something irrelevant,
completely different to what it. Like either design or like environmental studies.
Yeah, and he kind of says it's relevant.
He said, I never worked a day of that in my life.
Yeah, but he then did 7 years of bear research.
Yeah, I think that's the whole process itself, because at one point he says he's been working on it for 7 years. So I think he kind of got into it after. So maybe he's only in his 30s then.
Maybe.
Or late. Maybe if he went to college, like...
Yeah, that's believable.
Yeah, maybe early 30s.
And maybe the attack was in, like, his mid-20s.
Yeah. So maybe it happened. He came out of uni, worked at the metal place for, like, 3-4 years, 5 years, had it happen, and then carried on working there whilst doing the bear stuff until he was, like, 35.
But he said he's still working in the scrap metal business.
Yeah, I think he might own that, or, like, be the manager. He's like... He's kind of the local... Like, at least the way it's portrayed, he's kind of like the man about town. Everyone knows him.
Yeah.
At least for his very kind of small community, he's kind of the central figure there.
Yeah, I think he's like a small town guy.
Yeah, they talk about like when they go out later on, he's like, oh, you know, you come from the city and you come to this, it's so nice. It's like, it never seemed like you were in a city in any of this. I don't know if he's just talking about coming from a city, but it's a place near Ontario, so it's not actual kind of the city areas.
Yeah, and whilst he's driving around, he talks about how he always wanted to be Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah, and what does he say? Like even like a few minutes of Jacques Cousteau or something would be, few moments would be perfect. He just
wants to research,
and he's got this real like hate of being like average or normal. And he talks about that quite a lot. And it's a mixture of that with this idea of wanting to make his dad proud that seems to be spurring him on throughout.
He wants to like be somebody.
Yeah, he does. And I think, I mean, he has become somebody in lots of ways, hasn't he?
I mean, this is like 25 years later.
And we two guys from the south coast of England putting a... audio medium online about it.
Yeah, I bet he never even heard of a podcast.
No,
when he made that documentary.
Probably wouldn't have. No, I don't think they were around in 1996. To be honest, be a radio show. I think we've talked about that before, haven't we?
Yeah,
the equivalent would be
The Archers.
Like
we are 2022's The Archers.
No, like a pirate radio show where we just do it live. Fuck it, we do it live.
He's then chilling in the scrapyard in like night, and there's like a bear behind him, like looking for food.
Yeah,
and he just like acts chill, and he's like, the bear wouldn't have wandered in here. Like bears attack if they're like if you're in their territory.
Yeah, I also think black bears are much less dangerous, generally speaking. They can come up and kind of sit next to you, which is probably why he's so much more chill about it.
The lighter the fur, the more dangerous they are.
Okay, yeah. Going up to polar bears. I was going to say grizzlies, but no, that's the middle one. There.
Polar bears are the biggest as well, I think.
Yeah.
Of the bears.
Yeah, that's probably right.
And are brutal.
Oh yeah. He's at the town dump. Yeah, and he this is part of his research, isn't it? He kind of comes there in the night and just kind of crouches down
with the bears.
And just watches the bears like eat shit, basically. And then we see him at the bar with his friends, and I think this is the longer version of what we were talking about earlier. Yeah,
they're chatting about bears in general.
They're like, bloody bear man's over here.
Yeah.
Like, oh, bloody hell, Troy's here. And now we won't hear about anything but bears for 3 hours.
But what does come across is that it kind of really highlights his passion for bears.
Yeah, he is genuinely very
like, all he wants to talk about is bears. Like, I know you joke, but like, a couple of them are talking about other stuff, and he's just like talking at them about bears.
That's exactly it, yeah. I imagine that they were the ones who got his wife to call him back home at 1 a.m. They're like, 11 to 1 is Troy time, aka bear talk time.
Yeah, I feel like they're also interested in bears, but not to the extent he is.
No.
They haven't had the traumatic incident.
That's it, yeah.
And they're like, yeah, bears are cool. And he's like, no, bears though, bears. And they're like, yeah, I like bears. Yeah, but bears, man, bears.
Bears, man.
Yeah, and then one of them pulls their guitar over and starts singing like a country song about Alberta.
Yeah, and then they mention something about bears. I think he literally says like, sing a bit about bears, and they go, oh, the grizzly bears,
and they're like,
and he's like, ah! He's literally fucking obsessed with bears.
It's kind of adorable.
It is kind of, and like you said earlier, he's very charismatic, but at the same time, like, I think it would get to a point where you just be like, make just shut up about bears.
That's why I think the rest of them must like bears as well, because you wouldn't be able to put up with this man.
In
if you
some
didn't
ways,
like
they're all kind of bears themselves, aren't they?
Whoa. What do you mean by that?
They're all like hairy hillbillies. One of them's got a big mustache and kind of a beard.
There's another key aspect of like the of bears.
We don't know anything about their sex lives, do we?
Well, one of them's got a wife. We know that.
Have you ever seen Brokeback Mountain? Because I haven't, but I heard they have wives in that film.
I have seen Brokeback Mountain, and they do both have wives.
Exactly. I rest my case.
It's very good, actually.
I rest my case.
I think one of them's Anne Hathaway.
Oh, the wives, yeah, okay.
No, one of the bears in Brokeback Mountain.
So Oscar winning performance. The other type of bear, I see.
No, she plays a grizzly. That's what got her the role of Catwoman.
It's like from grizzly bear to cat lady.
The natural progression of Anne Hathaway. And in between, she sings about being poor and French.
I was going to say, if she played the other animals in between, is she in Cats? No, probably not. No. I don't think she would have done Les Mis and then Cats, would she?
No. Did she win an Oscar for Les Mis?
I think she did, yeah. Never seen that either.
But yeah, this next bit, we then see the suits. The first one we see is the Mark IV from 1988.
Right.
And he can run in this. It's a lot more lightweight. It's more. It's almost like an American football.
Yeah, with loads of. Whereas the modern one is almost looks like he's got a full body cast on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's so
he's basically got his clothes on and padding over the top.
Anne Hathaway played a parrot in Rio.
Cool.
So that's related to what we were talking about. Took me a while to find that.
And the best you come up with was Rio.
Well, she hasn't been in much animal-related films.
Oh, you only look for animal-related stuff?
Yeah, because we were going from grizzly bear to...
Almost is like the most notable film Anne Hathaway's done since Les Mis is Rio. Really?
No, actually, she was also in Rio too.
Oh, I didn't realize that was a second Rio.
You know those birds that they based that film off are now extinct.
Oh, God. Oh, that's sad.
That's really sad, isn't it? I think they are anyway. But yeah, so yeah, we see the progression of the suit. And,
yeah, we got Mark V in 1989, and it's a bit more like thicker, but he can still kind of run in it.
Yeah.
He clearly early on tried to have maneuverability as well as protection.
And I do feel like he probably should have kind of lent slightly more into the maneuverability.
Yeah, because that kind of gets in the way a bit later on.
It does. And I think at one point he says like a percentage. He says he wanted like 80-something% maneuverability, and he never got anywhere near that.
No.
And there's a bit, I think he's getting into, it's going back to that interview on the radio earlier, because there's a Canadian radio presenter who has interviewed him across the journey, and he goes back to that, and they talk about one of the experiments where he got hit by a car going at a certain speed, and he's fine, and then he jumps down, what is it, the Niagara Escarpment or something like that.
Right.
Which is like the hill next to Niagara Falls, I imagine.
Yeah.
And he just kind of leaps off.
We get these clips, there's several ones of him just falling down this hill.
Though, that's not safe.
No.
I mean, obviously it's not safe.
But he's fine. Yeah, and then we see the truck's got like a mattress tied to the front of it, and he's just driving into it.
It's just like
at 50 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is in miles.
No, like 30 miles an hour. And the funniest one that I thought was when he goes to the bar. Because they say
he's like, oh, well, if you really want to test the strength, the people you try it on is like a biker gang.
He says like a 6 foot tall biker or something. Yeah. And they go and you see him like playing pool with like these like bald guys, and then they're all outside.
He's in the suit in the car park, and they're just whacking him with baseball bats.
And when he goes down, because he's not stable in it,
yeah,
they just carry on smacking him. And we see after one of the legs has kind of started to chip open a little bit, and he's like, "Wow, someone was really going for my leg there."
he goes, "Look at that, eh?" And I was like, "There's the Canadian."
He's like, "I don't know which one of you, but one of you kept going when I was down."
And you see it when he's down. One guy just whacking his
just
shin.
Like fucking go. But they've all had a couple of beers. They're just like,
But all the baseball bats get like smashed up, and the suit is relatively fine.
Yeah.
So it works. And the next bit he mentions that he's claustrophobic.
I know. I've written he's claustrophobic, and he talks about in very vague terms. He talks about his martial arts have given him this mindset.
Yeah.
And we do see later on the expedition he's doing morning kind of Tai Chi stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he's kind of one of those people who, you know, you get it in like the 80s and 90s where people be like, I'm really into martial arts, but they don't really know anything. They just read books and kind of have like a
reminded me
mindset.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the whole mindset thing of Wim Hof.
Right, yes, who we watched.
Our good friend Wim Hof.
Who's Wim Hof for the listeners? Who don't know?
If you don't know Wim Hof, why are you even listening? No, he's like he's the Iceman. He can stay in ice for a long time. Bit of an adrenaline junkie, but he has the whole Wim Hof method of like based on like Tibetan monks, like meditation of like control of the body and like being able to put up with like these cold ice water just through your mind's control over the body. And when Troy's talking about that, it did remind me a bit of good old Wim Hof.
There's a project related to Wim Hof.
Yes.
So I won't go any further into that.
Yes.
But yeah, there is a project.
Definitely do that soon.
We can do a mini episode. I don't think
Wim Hof.
I don't think it's actually really related to him. It's just on his website. But it's an update on his website to a certain project. So
Project News?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know when that was posted. And I've closed the tab now, so
we will look into it off pod.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah, he mentions as well that he can't get out the suit on his own because it's got like latches and stuff on the outside.
Yeah.
Once he's in there, he needs help getting out. And then there's a funny bit where he's like walking through the mud. And he just gets stuck.
His foot or both feet get like stuck. And he mentions like quicksand, and it's like, you can't see, mate. It's just a bit of mud.
Yeah. And he asked him to take his arms off because it's all kind of detachable. So he can kind of get his balance. Yeah. And he's like, no, I'm stuck here.
That's the first time that we see him get kind of a bit aggy with them. He's a bit like, I mean, he's claustrophobic, like you said, but he's a bit like, no, get me out. Like, take the suit off. Like, he's getting a bit like barky at them kind of thing.
But yeah, then we get to him talking about the Mark 6, the current one.
Yes.
And he says, like, the upper body is his pride and joy. Because, like, it's very different to earlier designs, and he's really happy about it's come out. It's got a little black box, like, on the side, so that he can record anything that goes on.
He says, like, if he dies, it'll be his son will hear his last words through it and stuff like that. It's like, whew.
Didn't he say what his last words would be?
It'll be like, don't you dare ever try anything like this.
Yeah.
I guess that's because in a way, he probably wanted his dad to be like, don't do this stupid shit. And he's like, my dad never told me, so I'm just doing this stupid shit.
Yeah. And then
he also mentions that I think overall he said he spent $150,000. So if it was 100,000 on this suit, it's by far the most expensive.
The step up between Mark 5 and the current Mark 6 is a massive difference.
So it was like effectively 50,000 before that, and then 100 on the new
like
one.
5 suits. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he talks about it's layers, loads of layers. It's titanium in a load of layers, and this like special rubber that's made in Minnesota. It's almost like, it's not like a ballistic gel, but it's very kind of absorbent. I don't
know if it's this bit, but if you like look inside, he's like you said, got like a cast on, and then there's like a good like 6-inch gap to the edge of the suit. So the suit can be pushed in and moved around, and he doesn't actually feel it.
And that's why he's 5'8" or whatever, and the suit makes him up to 7'2".
And why he can get hit by all this stuff and not really feel it. Then it's kind of got everyone, him and all his friends and his mum are having like a barbecue by like the lake.
And I literally don't remember this at all.
Someone asks his mum, like, "Oh, do you worry about him?" And she's like, "No, I don't have to worry about him. Like, he knows what he's doing."
I didn't write anything down for that bit. That's annoying.
He talks about how it's got like he's like in the suit like bottom half, and he's just like having a fag and just like having a smoke for our American listeners.
This is, I mean, he's a bear. So he was having a smoke.
Yeah, and he says he has like dreams of falling.
Yeah, is this the bit where he talks about is that later on? There's a bit where he says, no, that is later on. He talks about waking up and in his cabin or something. But yeah, we'll talk about that as we go.
And the next bit is he's driving in the car, and on the radio there's news about a bear attack, and he like really perks up like, what?
Yeah, and he's like, they're almost like, wow, we got this on camera kind of thing.
Yeah, I think like 5 people get injured, but he's just like, yeah, like bears, man.
Yeah, I mean, the way he kind of shows a bit of concern for not necessarily for the victims, but when they say it's probably a mother and cub, which he's like, oh yeah, that's dangerous. He's like, if the police find it, they're going to exterminate them, basically. And he's a bit like, oh, like that's a shame kind of thing. But he's excited because he's like, that's vaguely in the area where we're going like next week or tomorrow.
And I think he's also like, it kind of shows off that he does know a lot about bears.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like, I know it's pre-internet, but 1996 kind of dawn of the internet, but not
before
like proper
common,
internet. But it's not like he can go online and read stuff. Like someone who knows that much about bears now could do it, on YouTube. Whereas he's had to like read books and stuff. And it's 7 years, but he's still.
We could probably spend a week on Wikipedia and know much about bears as Troy.
Yeah, but he's had some hands-on experience as well. Yeah. Very hands-on experience. And just going back to the black box, I thought it was very funny because in all the practices, it's literally a black box tied to the side.
Yeah.
When he goes out, it does have like a red and white protective thing over it. But I was like, surely that should be on the inside, not on the outside.
Yeah.
It's not like it's on the outside of a plane, on the nose of the plane.
Yeah, but I suppose if it's inside, it can hit him and cause him damage.
Yeah, I suppose.
But I thought maybe put it on the back of his head, not the sides.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's got a camera, but I feel like they don't have the technology for that.
Back in the 90s.
No, but I suppose they could have a little camcorder on it there. It does look a bit like a camera on the side, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But we don't see any footage from it, so.
Yeah, then we get the shot again of the helicopter carrying the suit, and they land at like a campsite.
Yeah, they're going on like an expedition, but it's basically like a bit of a boys' trip, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like all his lad mates, and they're all just kind of going camping. And they're out for like, 4 to 5 days a week, something like that, we see. 5
days.
Yeah.
So yeah, if the listeners are thinking, oh, they haven't really done much yet in this documentary. No, they haven't.
No, yeah, we're spending about as much time talking about this as has happened.
It's about halfway through the documentary.
Yeah.
And
most of the stuff's happened. To be honest.
Give the listeners something to look forward to, Sam.
I mean, there's some good stories coming up, and we might have some good riffs if we're in a good mood.
But yeah, there's a lot of, like, this could have been 20 minutes up till now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it was like an hour and 10 because we got a bit of in-depth with characters and stuff like that, but not much actually happens in this.
No.
Until...
Oh, yes.
No, it was quite cool. They're making plans about what they're going to do.
So it comes up day one. Right, it's very Blair Witch Project.
Wow, okay, that'll be the Grizzly Bear Witch... No.
The Bear Witch Project.
The bear... There we go. Yeah, I didn't understand it.
It's right there.
I know. I was gonna say the Blair Witch Project Grizzly because that's just the two names together.
The Bear Witch Project.
The Bear Witch. Well, I mean, one thing that we were gonna do at some point is the Bear Wench Project.
Yeah, but I'm still not convinced that's not porn.
I mean, it says.
I'm not sure we should review a porn film for this podcast.
I mean, I'm sure David would want to watch it. There's a lot of these as well, and they're only an hour and 16 minutes.
Will you last an hour and 16 minutes?
Yeah, I will. It's an adult spoof, so I think it's more like a scary movie than a
porn parody.
Adult spoof.
If anyone's listening and has watched the Bear Wench Project, let us know whether or not it's porn. And then we'll make a decision.
I mean, I'm all in for this.
I mean,
to be honest.
of course,
4 sorority girls with large breasts hiking to the woods.
Oh, we did our whole thing. Is we're gonna cover every project. This will be like it'll be 50 years down the line, and we'll be like, right, listeners, we've got one project left. It's been 50 years of doing this podcast, and we've got one project left. We're gonna watch the Bear Wench Project.
Oh god, yeah, it looks really funny actually. I'd completely forgotten about it until now. Haven't watched it 10 times already.
Yes, day one, expedition scouts site. So their expedition is scouting out the site, and they're basically talking through the plan of what's going to happen.
Yeah, but they're talking about it as if it's going to happen there, but then they walk around for ages.
Yeah, but they're playing out different scenarios of like, it's quite good preparation.
Yeah,
I suppose they're wilder people.
Oh yeah, that's one word for it, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the vague idea seems to be that Troy will kind of go ahead in his suit, and if he falls over and the bear's still there, then they've got loads of contingencies, haven't they?
They've got these guns. They're gonna shoot above the bear and
in the ground,
so the
dirt
to scare off the bear, and then they can go rescue.
And they've
Troy.
got these firecracker things that I don't know what they call them. No, they're basically like grenades.
They said they're like firecrackers, but more powerful.
Yeah, kind of like a cherry bomb or like a Roman candle or not a Roman candle. But they basically say we've got loads of these. So they're just going to chuck these. They're basically going to make loads of noise and kind of explosions and scare off the bear.
They all get like a bit of adrenaline rush from thinking about the bears.
They're getting like super.
They're all like, "Oh yeah, bears!"
And Troy's like, "You finally get it."
It's quite endearing, like seeing how excited they are for this.
And it's so funny that people go off on camping trips with their mates, but they've just been like, to all their wives and their girlfriends, like, we're just gonna go off and not hunt bears. We're just gonna
we're gonna go see some bears.
We're gonna go see some bears, and they're all just super excited about it. It's quite sweet.
Yeah, and then we get a bit where they're like, it's night and they kind of chilling.
Yeah,
and the guide tells a story, and they're talking about like adrenaline.
Yeah,
how,
what is this about?
So they talk about how like when you're near the forest and you don't know if there's a bear there, but the thought that a bear could be there really adds to adrenaline. And then this guy goes into this story about how when he was in Vietnam, So he is like older. He looks about 60. There's quite a wide age range in this group.
Was he actually in the Vietnam War?
Yeah. So he was.
At first, I thought he was a younger guy, and I thought he was like, "Oh, I just went to Vietnam," and then he starts talking about like explosives.
So what him and his mates did when they were in Vietnam and they were a bit bored, they'd pull the pin. They had this game. They'd pull the pin out of a grenade and put it down between their feet.
They said you couldn't throw it down. You had to place
put it down. And you got two options: run like hell, or find like a ditch nearby and just jump in it, and then the explosion will generally go up and out.
He said like any kind of slightly dipped area kind of thing.
You jump in there, and the adrenaline from that grenade like really gets you going. And I'm like,
I think it was
fucking hell. No wonder they lost the war.
I know, spending all their fucking grenades on that.
I'm like, what?
I think it was like when they're on night patrol, like to keep them awake kind of thing. But it's also like you're probably just declaring your position to the enemy.
This is
multiple times.
This is the Viet Cong who famously were great at hiding in the forest.
Maybe they'd accidentally blow up some Viet Cong at the same time. Take their credit for that.
But yeah, it's a weird story, and
it was funny. Yeah, it was a cute moment. Yeah.
But then we get day 2, Mark 6 tested. And Troy is put in the suit like near the trees. And they're saying like, oh, because it's a bit hilly, like we're gonna have to get dressed near the trees because you can't wander over in the suit. And then they're like, what we'll have to do is like tether the suit to a tree and they go put it on because we can't walk. This is them trying to figure out like the logistics of wearing a suit there.
Yeah.
And these are the conclusions they come to. And they're kind of walking around a bit and he falls over.
Yeah. I think I didn't quite follow what was going on here because my next note's when he's doing Tai Chi, which is a bit later on.
Yeah, so it's significant in that like he tries walking around and because it's so hilly with ditches.
Because he's effectively waddling along. He can barely move.
He can't like bend his knees. He can't
bend his knees at all, and he can barely move at the hips.
And he can walk like 2 inches at a time.
Yeah, so it's just imagine if you're in a full body cast, how much you could walk if you had flat feet kind of thing.
And because it's so easy to fall over, he kind of comes to the conclusion that this plan isn't going to work.
Yes.
He says we need, if he's going to walk in it, he needs flat ground, and this spot isn't really an option for that. Like this. Because they wanted to go next to trees because they know this is the bear's territory and the bear could easily come out the trees. Usually they'll just stay in the trees. They come out the trees and attack.
Yeah.
So being on the edge of this forest is prime position. But because it's so hilly and like lumpy, it's just not really an option.
Yeah.
And then I think it's the Tai Chi bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically him. He's in like a kind of, I think it's the white outfit. It's almost like a long johns thing that he wears underneath the suit.
Yeah.
But it also looks like his pajamas. And he's got his red beret on and he's just in a field kind of doing Tai Chi. And I think it's shot from like above or from the distance.
I don't remember this.
He's like on his own. And he's just doing that for a little bit. And then I think there's voiceovers. And then his mates will come and collect him and they go off and do the thing. But it's kind of showing this kind of eccentric spiritual kind of side of him.
The Wim Hof of side of him.
Yeah, definitely. And then we get, is this day 3 now?
Day 3. Yeah. So when I'm saying this, they have little titles for each day. So day 1 being Expedition Scout Site.
What's the...
day 3 is weather worsens.
Weather worsens, yeah, because it's snowing quite heavily. In this bit
and
here.
We get Troy shaving with a knife.
It's with his big Bowie knife.
Yeah.
And at one point he's like, oh, I should probably take the hat off. And then he's like, nah.
Yeah.
Because there's like a tassel that's kind of going in his face.
Yeah.
He just shaves his cheeks and he's like, oh, that's much better.
Yeah, and he's telling a story.
This is what I was thinking, yeah. It's kind of like his post-traumatic stress kind of stuff from it, isn't it? Because he says something about waking up in the night and thinking there's like 30 bears outside.
Yeah, I have all I've written is telling story.
Yeah, no, I think not 30, but at one point he's like, oh, after the incident, I used to wake up and think there were like 20 bears outside. And he'd run out of the front door of his cabin and just start shooting into the darkness.
Bloody hell.
So he was having real kind of repercussions from his incident, which is where we are in this story now. It's kind of the result of that. And he doesn't believe in guns, so I don't know where from then onwards he's kind of got. But he talks a lot about knives in this part.
We get a little bit before the knives.
Okay, yeah.
They find a dead elk.
Right. Yeah, that's been like chewed up a bit.
Yes, they conclude the bear must be near, which kind of gives them hope. The weather's kind of put them off a bit, but they're like, oh, no, the bear must be near. And they talk about how the bear can probably smell and hear them. The bear knows they're there, but because there's a group of them, the bear's not going to attack.
Okay, yeah.
And then they all get a bit nervous and they walk away from the trees and back to their campsite.
Right.
And then he goes into his whole knife thing.
Yeah.
Proper men carry big knives.
Yeah, basically he says he doesn't believe in guns, and he said he used to have that small caliber rifle when he had his incident with Old Man. But since then, he's kind of not believed in them, and he says that knives will save you better than guns, because even if you're the best shot against a bear, if it gets up close, you're better off trying to get a good big knife into it than a shot off, which makes sense.
He says, like, if you've got a bear charging at you from 50 feet, you got one shot.
Yeah.
And with a lot of guns, that shot won't even kill the bear.
Yeah. He says you're better, and he has 2 knives.
Yeah, and he says at that point, you're just hitting the bear with the butt of your gun.
Yeah. Or just like with the barrel of it. Yeah. Kind of thing. He says you're better off digging 2 knives into it and hoping for the best.
And he referenced many times that, like, oh, if you go talk to the mountain people.
Yeah, he's like, whenever they see me, they're
like,
always
good knife.
They look at my knife, and then he also says it's also for the 2-legged animals that you see around. And he's like, there are a lot of weirdos around here. And then he practices his knife throwing skills, and he's like, he kind of alludes to the fact that he's like thrown a knife at someone before. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna do it on camera, I'm probably gonna mess it up. And he does quite a good throw into a tree.
But yeah, he's got the bigger knife on his leg.
Yeah. No, the bigger one's up. The bigger one's here, I think.
Oh, is it?
Maybe.
So they're 4 like different things.
Yeah, one's the kind of more general tool knife. It's a Bowie knife, but it's practically like a half machete, isn't it? It's like it's a big knife. And then there's the like more like it's a throwing knife effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, and close combat knife. The thing about throwing knives though, like you've got one and done. Like if you throw that knife, like, that's
I always like it like in Umbrella Academy when they've got like the multiple knives on them. What is it? The Diego,
yeah.
Like the very kind of classic small throwing knives where people have like a load of them on like pouches.
Throw them
I think that's
like
cool.
Like a batarang.
Yeah, like a batarang or like almost like a ninja style, like a shuriken.
So then we finally get on to day 4, which is Mark 6 abandoned.
Yes, I've written suit gets abandoned ?
Yeah, but it wasn't abandoned. In they've now set it up in the woods. They can.
Yeah, because I missed the part. I saw when they tied it to a tree, but I kind of must have missed when they were talking about it. So I was like, why are they abandoning it?
But yeah, they've tied it up in this tree, and then they kind of say, we're going to be lucky to see a grizzly because it's snowing so much. Like they start hinting that this may not be a successful expedition.
It feels like the kind of,
I think at this point I looked at how long was left, and it was like 12 minutes, and I was like, they've got a lot to squeeze in the last 12 minutes, haven't they?
Yes.
Because not much has happened so far in the first hour of this documentary.
Yes.
But yeah, then I think this time he goes into the full story about his bear attack. So he says it's using the clips we get at the start, but now it's in full.
Yes, that's right.
And he's saying that like he remembers walking out to that bit, and the bear comes up to him, and they're just making eye contact, and the bear's like 2 meters away, and they're just staring at each other. And he's saying the thing that stood out about the bear the most was the stench of the bear, more than anything else.
And it has like deep black eyes that are like looking into your soul.
And he says the bear like hits him and knocks him back. And he had a gun and a knife, as you said, in each hand. and where he's landed, he's let go of them, and they were kind of outreach either
and he
side.
had like a pack on his back, so he's sat upright, so he can't even fully play dead because he's looking at the bear, kind of sitting up.
Yeah, like you say, the bag's propping him up.
Yeah.
And he says he's like, I know people always say like, with bears play dead, which like as I was watching this, I started thinking about what I would do if I was attacked by a bear, and I was like, just play dead. It'd be hard to play dead because
it's like the Revenant, right?
Yeah,
where
but
it
like,
starts playing with you.
Fucking hurt. Getting beaten around with claws and shit.
Almost all the stuff that happens to Leo in that film.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Is because it plays round with him after he's on the floor.
But also in the Revenant, the bear goes and then he tries to beat him, and the bear comes back, and then he kills the bear. But yeah, he's like, I'm not gonna play dead, and he gets his knife out, and he kind of gets up. He does, and he's like facing the bear, and he's got this knife in his hand.
See what he says? He says he drew his 2 knives to shove up old man's ass.
Ass. And he's standing there looking at the bear, and he said like the bear kind of looks at him, and he was like, if the bear could smile, that's what he was doing then, and
almost like a recognition, like, huh.
Yeah, like nice, like fair play. And he said the bear just walks away.
Just turned around and
he was kind of standing there with the knives. The bear thought, he makes a big point throughout this about like bears are like people in that like they have good days and bad days. Like sometimes they just can't be bothered. Sometimes they're pissed off for no reason. And it seems to imply that on this day, this bear just couldn't be arsed with him. So walked away. And he says ever since that day, he could never figure out why he wasn't killed.
Yeah. And he goes into a little bit more of what we saw earlier, where he's like, he spoke to mystic men and like native spiritualists and stuff. And he's like, no one could give me an answer. And it's like, well, I mean, you kind of answered it yourself. Like, you just didn't want to attack you, to be honest.
Yeah.
And although people say grizzlies don't respond to the kind of dominance thing in the way that a black bear would, maybe this one just was old and it just couldn't be bothered, you know?
It did have a grey beard, so...
Yeah, although if silverbacks or anything to go by, maybe it was like the dominant one there.
Yeah. And that's the end of day 4. We now get day 5.
It's almost the end of the film as well, isn't it?
Yes. An unexpected event.
Is that?
And they spot a bear.
Oh yeah, bear time over it.
So they're not where they've set up the suit. They've kind of gone wandering around. And they can see, like we see it on like a really zoomed in camera. It's probably about a mile away. Yeah,
it's far away, a couple of thousand.
And just this bear like chilling in a field, basically.
Yeah, and I think it runs up to like a bird and then scares the bird off.
And it's eating a dead horse.
Yeah, it's eating, and there's loads of wild horses around. It's kind of like a cool like ecosystem. You know, you can see a lot of different animals and stuff.
And
this is where I kind of missed. I was like, so he doesn't have the suit.
Yeah,
and I'd kind of missed that they left it up on that mountain.
Yeah, so they're like, this is like a 600-pound bear. They get quite excited about it.
They call it a big boy.
They're like, if he had the suit, it would work. But that's 10 miles away.
No, why did they walk 10 miles away? Just drag it on like a toboggan.
They clearly had kind of given up at this point.
Yeah, but he spent $150,000 on it. $100,000 on it, whatever it was.
And they see this bear, and then that's the end.
Yeah. He's like, he missed his chance, and you know.
And it comes up saying the Project Grizzly continues with Mark 7, and that's the end of the film.
And he says he still lives in North Bay, Ontario, with his wife Laurie and his son Joe, neither of whom we met. Yeah, and it says it continues. Yeah, and this is when I found out it was in 1996 because I assumed it was at least 10 years earlier than that.
So yeah, not much really happened.
Not much.
Before we get into our thoughts,
well, we've got
some
couple
bits.
of trivia bits there.
So one sad thing had to look up. Troy Hurtubise died in 2018. Based on what we're saying, maybe in his early 50s, late 50s.
I'm sure we could find out, but we're better to guess here. Have you got anything specific on that? How he dies?
No, so like
I've got some stuff here.
on how he died.
Yeah.
On his Wikipedia, it literally just says he died. He was 54. When he died, so
I've got 56 here. So
Wikipedia says 54. So in this film, he's like 33.
Yeah, so about what we kind of guessed at the end there.
So how did Troy
what I've got
die?
here, this is from a Vice article, funnily enough, called "The Man Who Built a Suit to Fight Bears Showed Us How We Should Live," in true Vice style. And it says, is it Hurtubise? What is it? Hurtubise was a man who spent his life trying to perfect a grizzly-proof suit, and he was willing to put himself, why can't I read today, through hell to accomplish this goal. His journey towards that invention and others came to an end this weekend when the 56-year-old died in northern Ontario after his truck collided with a transport truck in a suspected suicide.
Oh.
His wife, in an exclusive interview with the Hamilton Spectator, stated that she hopes he's not suffering anymore and that he finds the peace he couldn't find in life. However, he did provide joy and inspiration for others in his life. And she said, so many other people out there have dreams but are too afraid to chase them. Laurie Hurtubise told the Spectator, but not Troy. He did what others were too afraid to do. He followed his dreams.
It does kind of reframe everything in that, like, he was desperate for this.
Yeah, and I think the fact that, I mean, this was a long time after the film was filmed. But even so, there was another quote I had somewhere that I don't have open now, but there was plans to release a Project Grizzly 2 in about 2017.
Right.
So maybe that didn't come to fruition and he didn't, didn't deal with it so well.
The fact is, he never did have his encounter with a bear in the bear suit.
No.
With Project Grizzly, it never happened. I did read one thing that he wore the Mark 7s, the one after the one we see, right, to a bear encounter to test it.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
And he went into this like cage with 2 bears wearing the suit.
Yeah.
And neither of them attacked him.
Oh no.
They just kind of didn't care. And he concluded that the suit needed to look more human.
Right, okay.
Rather than just like a big.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the Mark 8, 9, 10 would have streamlined the design a bit.
Right, I see, yeah.
Rather than the thing we see.
Because, yeah, there's an interview here from Bay Today, which is a Californian website, and it talks about Project Grizzly 2, which was going to be called The Forbidden Trail, and it was due to be released at the end of 2017. They filmed 4 parts of the documentary at this point, which was mid-2016, and he talks about kind of the specifics and that part. He's about to go into the kind of grizzly enclosure at this point,
right? Okay.
And he's like, "The attack is guaranteed. The grizzly will attack me in this suit."
Yeah,
so
maybe because the bear doesn't, they didn't make it.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
So
wait, there's another bit here. He's been renowned for his unique inventions, including the angel light, which he claimed could see through walls, along with building bulletproof padding, which could be magnetically attached to the side of military vehicles.
Okay, so I've got 2 other bits of trivia,
okay,
yeah, which give different perspectives on this film.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
One is Quentin Tarantino called this his favorite ever documentary.
Wow. I mean, he kind of has a Tarantino vibe a little bit. He's kind of passionate. He's kind of chatty. He's kind of charismatic.
Yeah.
Bit annoying,
Maybe Tarantino likes bears.
Maybe he does.
I don't think there's any bears.
You know what he
Tarantino
does like?
films.
He likes bare feet.
He does. On the other side, Troy was not happy with this film at all. Firstly, when they first suggested so the filmmakers kind of planned this expedition out, and when they said we're going to go out in October, he said no, that's dumb.
Right, because
bears aren't going to be out. There's going to be snowing, and they insisted going in October. So
it almost made him look stupid because he didn't have control over the conditions of it.
He also says like the documentary was too humorous. It skipped over like most of his research.
Oh.
He said he was quite looking forward to showing off like all the stuff he's looked into bears, all the stuff behind the suit, and why it looks and is designed the way it is, and it's kind of brushed over to put in more jokes of him and his friends.
Of him being knocked over by logs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he said the 5 months he worked on this film made him bankrupt.
Oh, fuck.
And then the end result was something that he didn't like.
And he didn't probably get much money from that revenue
and
either.
Didn't even like succeed. So
yeah, no, that's not great.
He was not a fan of this film at
all.
Quentin Tarantino, yes. Troy Hurtubise, no.
I wonder if the makers of the film have any guilt when they heard about that news of his passing there.
Probably not.
Probably not, because they have a good couple million each there, don't they?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, so
well, that's the trick, isn't it? You know, it's the Tiger King way. You find someone who's mentally unstable and desperate for attention, and you milk them for all they're worth, and then you leave them in prison or in a shallow grave. That's how I'm going to make my fortune. And that's why I'm doing this podcast with Lewis right now.
Oh, wow.
Zoom.
Wow.
That joke really came together there, didn't it?
Yeah, I was wondering where you were going, and then you
I wondered too as well.
Yeah, I could tell. So
I've got one more bit of trivia.
Okay, yeah, go on then.
It's just the Simpsons bit we mentioned. So
yeah.
the 15th episode, no, the 5th episode of season 15, so well and truly past its best, November 30th, 2003, named The Fat and the Furriest, which is a reference to another film series there, or just singular film, I think, at that point. So it's about Homer gets attacked by a bear, and he gets seen on TV, I think, being like a coward, and he gets like a complex about it, and he ends up making a bear-proof suit, which is inspired by the Project Grizzly, the story there. So that's the kind of pop culture, one of the pop culture kind of impacts they had there anyway.
So in terms of your thoughts on the film, do you align more with Troy Hurtubise or Quentin Tarantino?
So it's a Troy or Quentin rather than a Project or Project.
Yeah, it's Troy or Quentin.
I mean, I do wish, as I think anyone would, that more happened in this film. And it does sound like the kind of context of it is a bit sad, especially if you consider maybe that it had an impact on, the next 20 so years of his life. But I did enjoy it. And I think it's first of all refreshing for stuff we've watched, and just quite an enjoyable kind of watch, generally speaking. So I don't know what I'd rate it. Probably 7 out of 10.
Wow, you gave me so much shit for my 7 out of 10 that's on it, and I've got a number in my head.
Yeah,
and it is not 7.
I mean, I probably shouldn't have said 7. I just went with a number.
That's right. You've had so for me, when this film finished, my first thought was, why was this documentary released?
Yeah, I mean, they should have just done more filming.
Yeah, like it's the sort of things like sometimes people go to make documentaries and the thing they're aiming for doesn't happen, so they don't release it. They release this anyway. I like Troy. I like the bits of him and his buddies, but it's all set up and build up for something that doesn't happen.
I would agree, yeah, in that sense.
You spend an hour and 12 minutes waiting to see him test his suit with a bear, and we never get a bear attack.
Yes.
And Troy carries this film.
Yeah, and I also think the insight, because it's something quite foreign to us, the idea of this kind of Canadian wilderness kind of thing in the communities, I almost wish it had lent more into that, as they didn't have the rest of it. Make it an hour and a half and include more interviews with people talking about, how he is in the community, and he's this wacky guy and stuff. Talk to his wife, talk to his little son even.
See, they don't have the bear attack. They don't really show the research, and they also don't really lean into Troy and his background too much.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you think, like, what is the point of this documentary? Like, what is the main message they're getting across here? What is it what do the filmmakers think is the main part of this story?
I mean, I think I enjoy, despite the fact it's a bit kind of morbid and kind of exploitative, knowing the kind of result of it, I think it makes it much more interesting. And I think having this charming guy who, the whole time, as much as I liked him, I was like, there's something wrong with this guy. And he's got lots of weird fixations on, everyone wants to make their dad proud. Yeah, but you're like risking your life in this kind of,
and like you've got a son.
I think there's something very interesting about that, and it's not a perfect film in any way, and I wouldn't go full Quentin and say it's my favorite documentary ever. or favorite film. Or
I
whatever
preferred the Laramie Project in terms of documentaries,
but that wasn't even a real documentary, though.
No, it wasn't.
Have we watched any actual? Project Nim. Project Nim was better than
Project
this.
Nim was way better.
I mean,
than
if we could change our ratings, I'd probably go down to a 6, but I've said it now.
You said 7.
I can't.
I'm going to give this a 4.
That is incredibly harsh, but fair.
I was going to go 3.
Wow.
But,
I mean, I thought the fact it was an hour and 12 minutes was great.
You just thought it was great because you didn't have to sit around watching it for too long.
I was on my phone for half.
It was about an hour and 12 minutes too long.
It was about half an hour too.
It was about half an hour too long. And like the fact of the matter is, like the whole thing is building up to a bear attack that doesn't. It reminded me of fucking Warcraft, which is a comparison.
I have not seen that.
The whole film builds up to a battle, and then it turns out the battle's going to be in a sequel that's never going to be made.
It's a lot of films these days, isn't it? To be honest,
yeah,
a lot of the films we like.
Yeah, and this just it was. Very frustrating.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I like the kind of hillbilly aesthetic. They were very charming.
Joe, what? If a bear attacked him in the suit, it would be like a good 7.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It didn't get near a bear.
I don't know how it's so hard to get attacked by a fucking bear.
Because they went out in fucking October.
Yeah, but...
They started hibernation.
Yeah.
What?
You're so frustrated with this film, aren't you?
Yeah, just like... These people are meant to know about bears. They can't even get attacked by
bears.
Like, just put him in.
I liked it. It was all these
put
guys
him in the suit.
It was all
put
these
him in the
weird
helicopter.
Guys who would just swing him at a bear
and lower him into the middle of the woods.
They could drop him off. He fell off that fucking Escobar bob or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the hill. Just
Niagara.
Put him in the woods and wait for him to get attacked by a bear.
Yeah. Anyway, that is our thoughts on the very, very exciting, thrilling documentary of the year, 1996, Project
It is my
Grizzly.
favourite documentary from 1996.
Well, I'll look up some documentaries, see if they can compare.
So, which means now we've done that, it is time for
Personal Projects.
This makes it personal.
Projects.
So, Sam, what have you been watching, doing, dancing, listening, reading, creating, making, cutting, murdering?
I've actually been watching
the first one.
The 1996 documentary, Freebird the movie. And as well as that, I've been watching the boxing documentary When We Were Kings that came out in 1996.
Okay, so I've not seen them, so I couldn't possibly
also
judge
Glastonbury the movie from 1996. And finally, 100 Years of Horror from 1996, starring one Christopher Lee.
Okay.
But no, actually, I've been... I actually watched something, despite not having Disney+. I went to Horrible BO Max down the road, Horrible Body Odor Max, and I obtained the VHS of Chippendale Rescue Rangers, which is a new Disney film, which you would have access on Disney+, this, which is a kind of vaguely Lonely Island produced film with the two chipmunks that used to be on Chippendale.
I saw a clip of this on TikTok where it's like Disney roasting Disney, because it's like they're talking about...
It's basically Roger Rabbit too, is what
and
it
they're
is.
talking about like shitty Uncanny Valley CGI, and it has two cats.
It has two cats from Cats
fighting.
Yeah.
And it has like a guy with the Polar Express eyes.
This Seth Rogen is playing like a dwarf from some unnamed fan. It's actually...
I wondered what that clip was
It's
from.
actually very good. It's a shortish film. It's about an hour and a half. And the two lead chipmunks are played by Andy Samberg and John Mulaney.
Right,
so
SNL
kind of, yeah. And it's directed by Akiva Schaffer, who is another Lonely Island guy.
Yeah.
And it has a host of kind of cameos of both the animated variety and, voice actors and live action people.
Yeah.
And it's very Roger Rabbit. It's taking the piss, but it's got like a kind of charming references to kind of Saturday morning cartoons of the kind of 80s and 90s. And I didn't understand a lot of the references directly, but it's kind of, you get contextual stuff. It's slightly more leaning at the kind of 30 plus American market than us.
Yeah.
But there probably isn't anything that you wouldn't understand. There's some very funny ones, including one of the main character, who's Dale, is effectively like a Comic-Con, but for the characters that they are, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the character who's opposite him in a booth is Ugly Sonic, who's called Ugly Sonic. And it's the actual Ugly Sonic, but they've made him slightly lankier with like a bit of like a gut.
Right.
And he's just signing pictures for people, and he's talking about how he's got a new show where he's doing ride-alongs with the FBI, and he's like, once people saw my horrible human teeth, they couldn't stop thinking about it. And I don't know how the fuck they got Sonic in, because it's not Disney.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that. I won't spoil some of the other ones, but that's one that you might see around. But yeah, it's well worth a watch. And
nice.
Not everyone's great. There's some live action cast members that I thought their bad acting was going to be a plot point, maybe a twist. It's not. I don't know the name of the lady who is in it, but you will notice it because she is one of
Maggie Smith.
No, she plays the police inspector detective that works with them.
Right. Okay.
And luckily she's not in it too much, but maybe it was just this way of acting that I didn't really like. But to me, it was not acting very well. Maybe it's because she's acting against chipmunks that aren't there, and she found that difficult.
Yeah.
But maybe just do more takes or something. It was the only drawback I've got about that. But yeah, I've got a couple other bits. But what have you been watching? Reading?
So, as I mentioned in the last few pods, me and Christina are powering through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
We're now in season 4. We've had Robbie Ray as Ghost Rider.
Right. Amazing.
We're now into the... What's it called? The Mirror Dimension.
Framework.
The Framework.
Oh, amazing.
I think we've had like 2 episodes of that. And
that was one of my favourites.
Yeah.
Especially if you watch through it all. Like, obviously, you have to know it to know the context. But
and
the
just
payoff
having Ward be like a good guy. And I'm like,
it's fantastic.
I fucking love Grant Ward. Like, they just keep coming up with excuses to bring him back.
I know. Yeah, they do, don't they? It's like, every season.
Every season. We need another villain. Who
Does
can
he
bring
come
back
again after that
I think that's it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
I remember thinking as they got into the last season, like, just God, bring back Grant Ward.
Oh yeah, no, we did, yeah.
And they don't.
The last season is. We'll talk about it probably in a week or two.
Yeah.
But the last season is weird because of certain absences of people.
Yeah.
Fitz is barely in it, and they kind of try and explain it, but it's...
Yeah, me and Christina, because Fitz kind of goes through a lot throughout S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Like, he has brain damage, and then the whole framework fucks him up as well.
Yeah, he gets that's amazing, that whole reveal.
But me and Christine were saying like S.H.I.E.L.D. is what it is, but I really think Ian Castaneda really stands out as a great actor.
He's
in this
fantastic.
series.
I've only seen him in one other thing, and I think he was filming. There's a drama or something that was shown on BBC that he was filming at the same time as that last season. So I think that's why he's not in it much.
I think he is the best. Obviously, you have people with minor roles like Samuel L. Jackson's in it.
Yeah.
What's his face? The guy that died recently. He plays Garrett in the... Bill Pullman is in it. Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton, yeah. I couldn't think
so like, not including people like Samuel Jackson, but I think he is probably the best actor in this. We've got Ming-Na Wen, who's done stuff, but in this, she's very two-dimensional.
I think she plays a lot of the same characters.
She's a better actress than she is in S.H.I.E.L.D., I feel. Like she's better in The Mandalorian than she is in S.H.I.E.L.D.
She is, but I think her character Fennec is pretty similar to Early May in a lot of ways. But that's.
But I think Ian playing Fitz, like, he is genuinely a good actor.
I think a lot of the characters in S.H.I.E.L.D. are charming and they're very likable and they're very charismatic, but they don't have much range, and that's fine.
Whereas
because
we see Fitz.
Oh no, Carl McLachen's probably one of the better actors.
But again, he don't show off in S.H.I.E.L.D. No. But yeah, Fitz goes from like kind of a kind of shy nerd to a brain damaged, like quite upset person.
Yeah.
To an evil person in the framework. to then having the whole like mental breakdown after that.
That's reveal incredible. So good, so good.
But yeah, so that is what I've got another thing, but you go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, did you end up watching any of the new Love, Death and Robots at all?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay, well I'll save that for when you've had a chance to watch it, either all of it or some of it, and we can talk about that.
Okay, cool.
Something I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Troy being hit by logs, it reminded me of Jackass, and I actually watched Jackass 4.5.
Is that is that the newest one?
So I was a bit confused as well. The 0.5s are the extra footage plus making ofs from the numbered films.
And how many numbered films are there?
4. So Jackass Forever, but spelt as forever rather than.
I've got Jackass 3 on DVD.
So Jackass Forever came out at the start of the year, and for some reason isn't on Netflix, but 4.5 just went on Netflix.
Right, that's weird.
So it's interesting because you get a lot of interviews to talk about COVID restrictions, talk about coming back after 10 years, and all the stunts that were in it are ones that were cut from the original film. So there's all original stuff.
So you haven't got any of the good ones.
Well, there is that kind of feeling. When I realised, I thought, oh, it's kind of a shame. But it's a good one. I haven't watched all of the Jackass movies, but the ones I've watched, there's always stuff I enjoy.
I've never seen a Jackass movie.
I don't know if I'd recommend this one over others. It's not like super gross, which some bits can be. Like occasionally there'll be stuff with like diarrhea and stuff, which is not really something I enjoy. But like a guy getting hit with a log, like Troy in this film. There's some good stuff, and they've got new members in this one, so they've got
so I saw
younger people.
They fired Bam Margera, didn't they?
They didn't bring him back because I think it was partly to do with rights for stuff, and he wanted more money, but partly because of he's
having a lot of issues.
He wasn't sobering up because
I think at the time he was really angry about it and was proper like chatting shit to them. But I think more recently he's come back and been like, I was in the wrong here. They were right to get rid of me. They
said like, if you don't get sober, we can't have you on because you're an actual danger to us and yourself. And I think Steve-O had similar issues before where
Steve-O's been clean for like 20 years, hasn't he?
Yeah, at one point they had to kind of get him off stuff. But yeah, it's good fun, and it's again, it's another hour and a half film, and it's on Netflix. So I would recommend it, definitely. Cool. And I'm going to track down the Forever because I imagine it's, like you say, slightly more impressive version of that film there. But the cast are good. One of the guys is Jasper, who was in Odd Future but not as a rapper. He was just one of the guys.
Right.
And he had his show called Loiter Squad, which had Tyler the Creator in and stuff, and it was basically a Jackass clone. And one of the guys from Jackass worked on that, so that it was like he's
been promoted to Jackass.
Yeah, effectively. And his dad's in a lot of 4.5, and he is hilarious. Like, there's a show on YouTube where they try like stupid things, and yeah, he's like this old like proper gangbanger. He used to be in the Crips, and he's been shot like 9 times, like in the head and in the neck. But he's like terrified of birds and planes, and they get him to skydive, and they like stage stuff going wrong. So they get a smoke machine going halfway through, and the pilot comes out to put it out, and then jumps out of the plane, and he's literally like crying and praying, and they just jump out, and the whole way down he's like shitting himself, and then he's talking about it after, and he's like, I genuinely was like, I'm gonna go to hell. I've done horrible things.
Oh my god!
But like, even if you can find that clip on YouTube, it's very worth the watch because it's good stuff. Torturing an old man, basically.
Nice.
You got some other bits?
Yeah. So I think I said to Amy, he got to last night and I realised I haven't watched anything for the pod. After I finished Project Grizzly, I was like, I want to go to bed, but I need to watch something so I can talk about a personal project.
I thought it might be Love, Death and Robots. That's why.
No, something been mean to it. I watched the first episode of the new Star Trek series, Strangely Worlds.
Okay, yeah, with Anson Mount. Yeah.
Blastic Arbog's gone himself.
Blastic Arbog's gone, that's it. Does he yell at anyone in this? Do they disappear into a fire mist?
In space as well. It's so dangerous. They all die.
In the first episode, he hasn't said anything. He makes one word and they just did this.
Yeah. So it's very obviously it is a spin-off of Star Trek Discovery.
Yes.
He's in that.
Yeah.
And it does start very much, particularly because Spock's in it. Him and Spock.
Right,
Pike
and they recast Spock for Discovery.
For Discovery they did.
Yeah. So I didn't get that. I think I got like 2 or 3 episodes into
because he's a younger one. So they like obviously can't Leonard Nimoy, and it's different
you can't have
universe
him anyway.
different universe to the films because you've got Chris Pine as
right. Yeah. So it is. It's in the same universe as all the TV shows.
Yeah.
And is it Pike? Did you say?
Yeah.
Is there something where he's in a weird machine later or something?
Yeah. So the quick history of Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm tangentially aware of
it. The pilot of Star Trek: The Original Series had Captain Pike, and it has an episode of him. When it was actually made, they changed that from Pike to they brought William Shatner in instead, and changed it to Captain Kirk. But then they revisit at one point where Kirk takes Pike to Pike's in like a wheelchair, very deformed. Takes him to a planet and he reforms.
Is it the beep 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 thing they do in Futurama? I thought
it's that. And then in Discovery, there's an episode. Spoiler, but you'll watch it at some point.
Yeah, where he like Pike comes in himself or something.
Sees like a time stone and he sees the future. He sees an explosion and sees him in that chair.
Yes, I have heard about this.
So this kind of builds on that, where he's very kind of
and he's aware.
He's like, I know when and how I'm gonna. Because he sees it as that's essentially the end of his life,
right? Okay,
because of the state he's in after, and he's like, I know when and where I'm gonna die. It's also very much built on the end of season 2 of Discovery with Pike and Spock and what happens with Michael.
Okay, don't tell me.
No, and then
so how many? So there's been 2. Is it the 3rd season of Discovery's on now, or
they've had 3 seasons of Discovery, but the 3rd season's in the far future. Cool. So these characters are still living off the end of season 2.
I see. Okay.
I'd say compared to it's very similarities with Discovery. I'd say it's way more Star Trek-y than Discovery, which is quite nice. A lot of criticisms of Discovery is that people who don't like it because it's new are like, oh, it's not the same universe. Blah, blah, blah.
Is it a bit like flashier and kind of...
Yeah, it's more modern.
More like the J.J. Abrams films, isn't it?
Yeah,
in some ways, like from what I saw.
Strangely, I've only seen the first episode. There's 3 out so far. I will watch the other 2 at some point.
Because Strange New Worlds is part of the thing they say, isn't it? To Strange New Worlds.
So this is a spin-off series focused on Pike going out of the Enterprise. It's got Ahura has been recast as a young person on his ship. It just feels really Star Trek-y. So like the first episode is, these people they develop warp, but not for travel, for weapons. So it was quite a self-contained episode, and I'm like, that's what classic Star Trek is.
Yeah, so it's more
I
like
don't know
than like,
if that will
ongoing.
continue, because Discovery and Picard are very season-long stories.
Yeah, that's what it's.
If this stays as episodic, that'll be great.
I mean, I imagine
I'm all there for that.
Why not do that until the end? Have an ongoing, like a Rick and Morty almost. Have like or even the way Doctor Who used to be for a lot of the time.
Because it's called Strange New Worlds. I'm thinking maybe they just go to a new planet each week.
Go to a strange new world.
But it's great. Anson Mount is charming and charismatic.
I hadn't seen him in anything apart from the first 2 episodes of Inhumans, so not that I'm aware of.
He's so wasted in that because like he is a charismatic.
Has he got a good voice?
Yeah, and he's got a great smile, which you never see in Inhumans.
No, he just looks upset.
He looks like he's got a frog in his mouth the whole time.
No, he's got a frog in his throat a little bit, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Not talking, I'll do that to you.
But yeah, maybe one day you watch Discovery. I would say instead of watching Discovery season 3, maybe watch Strange New Worlds instead, because Discovery season 3.
I mean, we've got a Discovery episode.
We do Project Daedalus,
which I think is season 2.
Season 2,
towards the end of 2, I think.
Yeah, I think when I went through rating all the episodes, it was my highest rated episode of Discovery.
Okay, cool.
So you watch Discovery so we can do that.
I mean, I'd have to watch up to that one, and then we'd do the recording, and then you'd obviously know where it goes, and I can hypothesize live on air.
But so that's what I've been watching. I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the series. I had to go see heavy body, horrible body odor Max to watch that first episode.
Okay, because it's just popped out.
It's on one of those American channels that we don't get here.
Right.
Like a CBS type thing.
Yeah, or like Peacock or NBC. Or
yeah,
whatever.
one of those. Whereas all other Star Trek's on Netflix.
Right.
Picard's on Amazon.
It's annoying, isn't it?
And
it is really.
And this is on one of those.
It'll
probably pop up on like Channel 4 in 8 months.
Yeah, like E4.
And nobody will watch it. And they're like, oh, people in Britain don't like Star Trek. It's like, it's what happened with Rick and Morty.
Yeah,
they put
it's
it
like,
on.
No, because we all watched it 2 years ago.
They put it on E4 6 months after it was
out. And they put it on at like 11 o'clock because it's got rude words in it.
It's like, no, everyone's already seen this.
On at 9 o'clock instead of like Revenge or whatever that thing is.
In this day and age,
Agent
not
13.
releasing stuff at different times in different countries, especially 6 months, just doesn't make any sense. No, it doesn't
make any sense at all. It's why like Better Call Saul and the last season of Breaking Bad were live. Not a live broadcast, but like Game of Thrones. Put it on 2 hours later.
Yeah, just stick it on.
It's silly. The very last thing I was going to talk about, just because it's kind of topical for at least for recording, if not release, is the Warner Brothers game Multiversus, which I don't know if you are aware of from the name.
Nope.
I think I showed you a trailer. It's like a Super Smash Bros, but with Warner Brothers characters.
Right.
And there's people like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Bugs Bunny, Finn from Adventure Time, Jake from Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Harley Quinn, Shaggy, Velma, Tom and Jerry, that sort of thing.
I feel like Bugs Bunny wins that fight.
Arya Stark's in it for some reason. They also, anyway, basically there's
Bugs Bunny wins that fight, right?
Well, I mean, I played as Finn the Human online. And who was with me? Shaggy. Shaggy. But anyway, it would be Raggy, wouldn't it? But anyway, so Super Smash Bros. Kind of clone, but I haven't played much Smash Bros, but this plays very, very well. The closed alpha came out recently. I saw it was going live. I thought I might as well sign up for it, and I have been given a invite to it. So for a week or so, I get to play it. I got 3 invites as well, which one of them I've given to one of our friends. You might be able to guess the only one who plays fighting games, who is quite an avid gamer.
Amy.
Yeah. But if anyone wants one, it probably won't be still live when this goes live. So sorry. Yeah. But there is a public beta coming out soon. And when the game comes out, it's going to be free to play anyway. But yeah, it's good fun and plays really nice. The characters are all voiced by their actors. Not sure if Arya Stark is, but it sounds like Maisie Williams. Right. Got like Kevin Conroy playing Batman, so it's nice. A good old fun and easily kind of accessible, but seems to have some depth to it. And it's a good old
good old time.
Iron Giant's in the full game as well, which should be fun.
Ready Player One, the game.
Pretty much, but like actually something there. But yeah, I've been having fun with it. I haven't played too much, but it's something that I have been projecting.
Nice.
Yeah.
So hopefully your thoughts about this episode of the podcast was more like Sam's opinion of Project Grizzly than my opinion.
Or Quentin Tarantino's.
Yeah. And if so, I'd be really quite grateful if you went onto your podcast listening app and gave us 5 stars. It's very easy to do. I know some of you have already done that, so thank you.
Yeah, we've had
those
some nice
you
ones.
that haven't done it. It takes a second. What are you waiting for?
What are you, a grizzly bear off in the wild without access to internet or a telephone? If that's not you, then you have no excuse, basically.
Yeah, do
That's
it for
what
Troy.
I'm saying. Do it for Troy.
Do it for Troy.
R.I.P. brother.
If you thought Sam's joke there was a bit inappropriate,
it's not a joke.
you can message him directly to let him know that, can't you?
My personal email is theprojectpod@gmail.com. And I check that every day. I have notifications turned on. So if you send something across, it will pop up and bother me during my work week.
I'm glad I don't check that.
We also have social medias, which are all in the link tree in the episode description. We're on YouTube as well. So if you search Project or Project Pod or the Project Pod, as we're formally known, then we should show up on everything. And also, if you want to kind of share this episode with somebody who has a particular interest in Troy in Grizzly Bears in making homemade armor. If you fancy yourself a Tony Stark light and you want to learn how to make armor, you can find this whole film on YouTube
and Amazon.
But YouTube is entirely free for everybody, so it's slightly more accessible. If you're a hillbilly who lives in Northern Ontario, or just another person who lives in Northern Ontario, then you could check that out, and please give us credit when your inventions succeed.
Yeah.
But until then, we'll catch you in the meantime.
I won't catch you. I'm not very good at catching. My hands aren't very big.
Not with that giant armor you've got.
But I will hear you specifically next Monday. I'll hear you next Monday.
You can tell Lewis normally does the outro because I didn't know what to say.
The thing is, I never know what to say, but I'll hear you next week. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
I'll see you in Beartown, baby.
I was gonna be like, yeah, I'm actually part Canadian, like, so I can kind of make jokes about Canadians, but no, you just went to Beartown. Let's all go to Beartown.
Go to Beartown, baby.
Oh yeah.